Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Is my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to the Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
And he is your co-host, Sandro Luketic. And today we're talking 2000s Pitch Black. We assume if you're listening to this episode, you have already seen the movie because we are going to spoil the shit out of this one. Sandro, you gave me years to select, and we would cover the accompanying film. Your reasoning behind Pitch Black was that you had seen it a long time ago, and you were thinking about revisiting it. Why?
Correct. And for the record, it didn't feel like it took you years to make the decision. You just picked it pretty quickly, actually.
Okay.
I don't know. I wanted to revisit it.
Did you have fond memories of it before, or you just know that you knew you had seen it and you didn't really remember it?
Well, it was my introduction to Vin Diesel because I hadn't seen like Saving Private Ryan, which really shouldn't be a shock to anybody who's listened to any of our previous episodes.
He wasn't really in it anyway.
Wouldn't know. Didn't see it. Can't attest to that, but sure. And I remember really liking the movie when I saw it, and it would have been in like 2000, or if it came out late in 2000 and came out to rentals in like 2001. Like I saw it as a new release rental, and I remember really liking it as just a basic sci-fi action movie. There wasn't too much depth to it, although they do create a great air of mystique around the backstory to specifically Riddick, but also some of these other characters. And I remember thinking at the time, like, wow, this Vin Diesel guy is a badass. And I always wanted to kind of go back and see, was the movie actually good, or was I just a stupid young person?
Yeah, it's...
To be fair, both of those things can be true.
My memories on this film were, first off, not really being a fan, mainly because of the creatures. I didn't like the creature design. I thought it was really weak.
Do you know on IMDb they call the creatures raptors?
No.
Yeah, like if you look at the IMDb trivia and goofs and anything that references it, they call them raptors, which is not what I would have thought.
No, it does work though, I guess.
You know, there's a term that feels like it would be very appropriate for this kind of movie at any time. Aliens.
Yeah.
Or monsters, even.
Yeah, I stuck with monsters for the most part, but
sure,
whatever. Raptors is fine, I guess, but not once are they referred to as such in the film. So
maybe that was the original plan. And the script was to have raptors come out from the ground.
Well, the original plan was that they were ghosts.
What?
Yeah. This movie obviously went through a bunch of rewrites. But yeah, originally it was going to be ghosts that would come out at night.
Oh, that kind of makes sense for the light thing too, I guess.
Well, how are you fighting off ghosts?
With light?
That would be a completely different film.
Yeah.
But I look at this movie differently now, having seen it a few times in the last week. So I'm very curious to see if it stood up for you or if you just hated it this time around. But let's kind of jump in here because this, I believe, was also my first introduction to Vin Diesel, and I know I totally jumped past your game.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not jumping past it. You got a free week last week because we did an animated movie, but not this week, dude.
I liked last week.
Too bad.
not having to play this.
Games are fun, man. Get behind it.
Because I know I'm going to mess it up. I'm sure I'm going to mess this one up.
Okay.
Because I'm saying there's only one person.
Correct.
And that is Keith David.
Correct.
And here we go. Because I feel like I messed up on him last time, and I don't remember what last time was. So I know I'm not going to win.
I'll say it's 2.5.
So, They Live. Yes.
Correct.
The Thing.
Correct.
I fucking said this was going to happen.
Yes. You were correct there as well. That's 3 corrects in a row.
Oh, I'm on a streak. It was recent too, wasn't it?
Recent-ish.
Was it just a voice?
Yep.
I'm stuck, man. I don't know.
It's the movie that I can't get the title right for.
I should know that.
You Just May Be the Killer. No.
Oh, You Might Be the Killer?
That's the one.
Oh, that's right. He was the doctor.
No.
Doctor? No.
No, police chief that they were trying to reach the entire time, and then left a message at the end saying, like, call me back. Well, I guess everything's okay.
Oh, man. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm going to let myself get a pass on that one. I got the two main ones.
Yes, you did. Good job.
So this is our fourth time with Keith David, and I'm not complaining. This guy's great.
Oh, Keith David is the best.
Yeah.
Goliath in the flesh.
Yeah. There was a Gargoyles film, right? I think there was.
Maybe it was one of those where it's like we did a 5-parter of the show. I don't know.
Oh, we should definitely do that. Definitely. I'll look into it because we'll get a guest on. We'll get Keith David on. We'll talk Gargoyles.
I would wish they had a live action one with Keith David just wearing like prosthetic gargoyle parts. I'm not doing this shit. Someone get my agent on the phone. Oh man, imagine being that guy's agent on the phone. That voice berating you all the time. Oof.
Well, we don't know he's berating anybody. He could be the nicest guy in the world.
They put him in a live action Gargoyles movie.
Well, okay, yeah, all right. They put him in this movie, so I imagine he was probably yelling at them for this.
I just make up this scenario in my head and I run with it. So there you go.
What are we doing?
We're reviewing Pitch
Black. The Keith David vehicle. Pitch Black.
Yep.
Guest starring Vin Diesel. But yes, let's do Pitch Black.
It's interesting that you would say that, actually, because when I watched the movie the first time, I remember not thinking that Vin Diesel was the main character for like 2/3 of the movie, because they put a lot more focus on the other, I guess we'll call them survivors.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of crazy how popular he was and how that individual character skyrocketed after that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I have a question for you, and that is, who is the main character of the film?
I believe it is the female pilot whose name has escaped me.
Fry.
I believe it is Fry.
Yeah. I think so too, but they put a lot of light on Riddick, even though his character isn't overly important to the plot.
Nope. He's a tool.
Exactly.
And I don't mean that as an insult, but like his vision is literally put in there. That character and his backstory was created specifically as an avenue for them to be able to contend with the obstacles ahead of them. He was not meant to be it. But I think that in retrospect, when you look at the fact that he got multiple movies, he had, there was animated movies about it. Mm-hmm. I remember playing the Escape from Dark Athena, I think it was, the video game, which was
Escape from Butcher Bay.
Well, they did two, and then they packaged the two of them as one when they re-released it later on. And it was more of a stealth game, but it did have like melee action combat in the first person. So like this character, in hindsight, everybody's going to just assume he was the main character. But if you were watching the movie brand new at the time, he definitely did not get that vibe from him.
Well, no, he's a complete asshole in this movie.
Well, yeah, a main character can be an asshole.
Yeah, but he doesn't really do anything heroic.
Well, I didn't say he was a hero. I said he was a main character. There's a difference.
Yeah, but anti-hero, maybe?
Yeah, I could see that. It benefits him to get off the planet, and if they can utilize that to their advantage, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I guess the original script had no distinct leading role. There were three main characters, and it didn't go over well when they were trying to use that because egos just got in the way. And I know what you're thinking. Vin Diesel has an ego? No way.
Maybe not back then yet. Maybe he wasn't established enough to do that.
Oh my God. He was probably just happy not to be selling or hawking action figures. Did you ever see that video of him on YouTube where he's trying to sell Street Sharks?
No.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. He's so into it. He's given the characters the names and telling the backstories, and it's I mean, I get it. It's a job. It was a paying gig, and everybody needs that. But it's pretty embarrassing to watch today.
Well, I always loved his connection to Dungeons and Dragons, and how he even credited role playing in it as helping him hone his acting craft. So that was always kind of cool.
So D&D is to blame.
If you want to use that word, yeah.
All right. Oh, before we get in, I'm going to ask you right now: are you a fan of Vin Diesel?
The person, no.
Okay.
The actor, not really.
Okay. I was hoping you were going to go that way, but let's get into this.
Sure. Yeah, we're neglecting this Keith David movie.
Yeah. We start off with going against everything I said. A pretty cool voiceover by prisoner Riddick, of course, Vin Diesel, as he explains the scenario. He's on the Hunter Gratzner spaceship, which is transporting passengers in cryostasis. And the ship passes through a meteor trail, which critically damages the ship. Before this, he gives us kind of a rundown of some of our main characters, like Imam, Keith David, who's guiding youths on pilgrimage. We also have Zeke and Shaza, who are settlers. A couple other people. John's played by Cole Hauser, who's taking Riddick to prison. But we don't really meet everybody until a crash. Thoughts on this, what I would consider interesting, open?
Well, you had two phenomenal actors that could have done this voiceover in regards to their voices, when I say phenomenal actors. So I guess it's all right that they used Riddick because of his character, although I would have been fine with them using Keith David as well for any voiceover, anything. I definitely do like this intro because the whole thing is, it is a sci-fi action movie, and there is a very specific minimum amount of backstory that you actually need to get into the characters here. In a quick narration, they give us a little bit of a reason for all of these characters to get together, like a setup for why they're going to be in the situation they're in, and they don't waste a lot of time with it. And they even give you the entire, and I'm getting a little ahead of you here, but the decision that Fry has to make at the beginning to really establish her as the main character.
I agree with that completely, yeah. Because the ship's captain is killed by these meteor fragments that are penetrating the hull of the ship. And pilot Fry, played by Radha Mitchell, and First Officer Owens Wake escape their pods and try to gain control of the ship before it crashes into a nearby planet. And I agree, Sandra, this is a really cool way to start a movie because it gives you all the necessary information right away. It doesn't give you anything that you need to ignore. Like you don't have to trim any fat off of this opening. They just slap you in the face with suspense immediately. And starting off with the calm, deep voice of Vin Diesel is a perfect way to introduce all of this insane action immediately afterwards.
Yep.
And yeah, they can't stop the ship from crashing. So what does Fry do? Which immediately is supposed to make the audience despise her. And that is, she considers ditching the passengers.
Correct. Yes.
Which is fucking dark. Really, really dark. And
you have this character here who is not the captain and is being the inexperienced pilot thrust into a leadership role. So it also sets up the flaws of her character as a leader. It really is a perfect opening.
Yeah. And you had mentioned her even saying, I'm not going to die for them, which we get a callback to at the end of the movie. And this is one of the few movies that I believe benefits from a rewatch, because there are a few different parts that you can just miss on a once through. The crash itself is absolutely terrifying.
Definitely for the captain.
Oh yeah. Well, he's not around for long. But like
it's a bit of a sight though.
The blinding light on the planet once they break through the atmosphere, violent fire heavy crash as the ship is ripped apart. Owens dies tragically, and I have to say the video editing, the sound design here is perfect.
Yeah.
this is an amazing opening for a movie that I remember not enjoying that much.
Why did you say he died tragically?
It's tragic because of what we learn later.
Okay.
Yeah. But he dies because he's impaled on what looks like
rebarb or whatever.
Rebar, exactly, yeah.
And does he die from that? Because it seems like she puts him out of his misery.
Well, it's
she
the
tells
cause.
everybody to leave the room.
Yeah.
There is a heavy suggestion that she's just gonna put him out of his misery. And that's another very difficult situation to put this character in. Like, we've just been introduced to her. She's had to contemplate ditching an entire, like, I wouldn't say crew, but I guess passenger cabin.
I don't know if she was contemplating that. I think she had her mind made up and then just changed at the last second because of Owens.
Okay, all right. Well, semantics.
But you're right. To assume that she was to put him out of his misery, again, what we discover later in the film adds so much more weight to her being put in that situation.
Yeah. This character has already been put through the ringer, and it's 3 minutes in.
Yeah. So we fully get to meet the survivors now, the people that Riddick was talking about in the opening, also including Paris, who is just a booze hound merchant, I guess. We never really get much of a backstory to him.
He loves his booze.
Yes, he does. Very expensive booze, though.
Yeah, that apparently burns really, really well, according to him.
I hated that so much. I did enjoy the reveal of how long the crash path is, though, because when they get out on top of that ship and look back, it passes the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've crash landed on the planet, you want to give us a description of where we are for the rest of this movie?
Well, it's kind of like a desert planet. What's up with the camera work when they're outside, though?
It's a very mid-90s style of filmmaking that I absolutely hate.
Is it meant to just contrast the darkness later?
I guess.
Because this is a very, very interesting lighting choice when they're outside. Because it's not like it's just bright.
No. Also, stretching the image on the diagonal happens frequently when they're outside, and I really don't like that.
Okay.
Well, it's a futuristic science fiction action film. Stop using things like techniques that date it, because that style of filmmaking was already on its way out. So I don't know what David Twohy was doing when he decided to do this, but he's mainly a screenwriter more than a director. So you'd think the cinematographer would have mentioned, hey, maybe we don't do this, but director calls it. So do you think that a desert planet setting benefits this movie?
I don't think it matters.
I disagree.
I guess you're right, because it really does limit places for them to hide.
Not only that, but sometimes weak writing, which this movie does have, can be disguised by background action, something to draw your attention. In a desert planet setting, there is no background action. You are focusing in on the performances 100% because there's nothing else to look at. There's nothing to focus on. So you better have an amazing cast. And the cast here is not bad, but they're not fantastic either. And I found this kind of detracted from my enjoyment of the film.
I liked it.
Okay. I just think it would have benefited if there was more of like you could have done this really well as a jungle planet, a rainforest planet. But it would have been a lot more expensive. So yeah, let's just film in Australia, guys. It's cheaper.
You have a very limited cast. And I mean that in not regards to talent, but there's literally very few people in this movie.
Yeah.
You can give a little bit more of the weight to the primary foreground characters. The background characters can kind of just, kind of move things along. But if this was a jungle and they had more options to hide from the raptors,
you're going with it, okay?
Or any sort of like civilization planet that is just derelict and abandoned, then it really does make their struggle seem a little bit more easy to overcome. The fact that they're out in the open so much of the time, especially later in the movie, just makes it such an obstacle for them to overcome.
Okay, I'll give you that. So Johns tries to give weight to the threat that Riddick imposes, while Paris gets annoyed that the survivors are drinking his stash of booze hidden in a sarcophagus.
It's a weird place to hide it.
It really is. I don't know why you're hiding it in the first place.
Because you don't want other people drinking it. It's expensive wine. Or booze, sorry.
Yeah, it's spirits, we'll go with.
No, those are under the planet.
Oh, God. Imam says he can't drink alcohol on the pilgrimage, and it's pointed out that there's no water readily available. I immediately have a problem with this because drinking whiskey is not the same as drinking water, people. And they're just downing it.
Yeah.
They're making things worse for themselves immediately. But at the same time, they just crashed onto an alien planet. I understand wanting to have a drink, but they're chugging these bottles.
What's dehydration?
Well, Fry even brings that up. She's like, that just dehydrates you more. And the thing that caught me off guard with this is that they are pounding back alcohol.
Yeah.
And nobody gets drunk.
They have a high tolerance?
Okay. It's a minor thing, but it just bugged me. What did you think of Riddick escaping his bindings by dislocating his shoulders?
Not buying it.
No, me neither, man. Can you imagine? He dislocates his shoulders and is just hanging there because he can't get out. So not only is he still bound, but his arms are completely useless.
Must have torn some ligaments in there. You might dislocate your shoulders, but shit's still got to be attached somewhere, man.
Exactly. And why do they assume he just flees into the desert? Because look around. You can see for miles. And no one sees him.
Camera pans over and you just see him running in an empty desert. It's like, there he is! Because there's nothing to hide behind.
Well, that's just it. Rainforest planet. Bam, he's behind a tree. But the survivors decide to arm themselves, which, I mean, you would fucking do in the first place anyway, right? You don't know what's outside.
Whether he escaped or not. Yeah, I'm grabbing something.
Yeah.
Just in case.
And everyone rigs up this weird oxygen breathing apparatus that they have, which is a cool idea. But, I mean, they fall back on it a couple of times shortly after here. But in the end, it's pointless, and they just abandon them altogether. So why bother?
Oxygen doesn't seem to be their problem. Water seems to be their problem.
Yeah. The planet that they're on has 3 suns. How do you feel about the different lighting they use? Specifically things like that blue tint.
Yeah, that's the part I was asking you about. I don't quite understand. If it's just meant to be like, hey, this is a cool visual effect because we're on an alien planet and there's 3 suns and it just messes with the color, fine. But I feel like it's intending to do something to really contradict the darkness later. Like,
maybe
we're not just going to make it bright. We're going to make it like an unnatural color of brightness so that it really stands out in your mind, even if you don't acknowledge it at the time, so that when it does become dark, it really hits you that it is dark.
But much like the breathing apparatus, they abandon this a few hours into the story, and it goes back to just harsh white brown lighting.
Their eyes adjusted.
Oh, okay. So the survivors head out, all but Paris, who stays behind to smoke cigars and drink. And John spots trees in the distance, hoping that they mean where the water is nearby. And this leads us to what I think is a great reveal of what the trees actually are. Bones. Just bone spurs on skeletons of dead animals in a canyon.
Vin Diesel standing with his hands out, pretending to be a tree.
Yeah.
Please don't spot me. Please don't spot me.
I have to say, despite our few complaints, this movie's impressing me so far.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Just having fun with it. It's good.
Yeah. Fry admits here that she isn't the captain. I feel like they could have dragged that out a bit longer. It seems really early to let that facade go.
Did none of them know that?
I think it's because she took the leadership role immediately after the crash that people just assumed this must be our leader, this must be the captain, with no real reason to believe that. But I think that's a group mentality after a traumatic event like that. When someone takes the lead, you just kind of follow if what they're doing makes sense.
Well, yeah, but I would have thought getting on the vessel, you would have met the captain or something.
It's a good point. We don't know.
But I can understand if she's saying it in the regards to, look, I took the lead because I had to, but don't follow me. If that's what you're saying, then I'm okay with that, because this character has so much on her shoulders now.
Oh, definitely. What are your thoughts on Riddick sneaking up on her and John's during their conversation and like snatching a bit of her hair and smelling it?
Yeah, I don't get the smelling it part.
Me neither.
I would have liked it if he just kept it and then later kind of used it to intimidate, saying, like, when do you think I got this? I could have killed you at any time.
Mm-hmm.
No? If that was the case, then fine. But just smelling it and tossing it aside, it's like, all right, well...
he's a creep.
That was pointless, right? Yeah. You get what I'm saying, though. If later on he had said, when do you think I got this? I could have killed you at any time. It really would have set up the threat that he poses.
Well, exactly. Like, it's pointing out how stealthy he can be. That he can move around in broad daylight in a desert with almost no coverage. He can still sneak up behind you and kill you.
Yep.
So we cut to Zeke digging. And I can only assume he's trying to find water.
You'd have to imagine that's what he's doing. I don't know what else it could be.
It just seems so strange. I also really hate Zeke.
Yeah, don't worry about him.
Yeah, we won't have to soon. A young pilgrim finds a toy showing that there were humans somewhere in that area at some point. And of course, this leads them to the abandoned research camp that has a potential water source. But more importantly, it leads them to an intact spaceship. Immediately, we jump back to the crash site and get a jump scare reveal of another survivor who immediately gets murdered by Zeke.
Yep. Who is this guy? Don't know.
Doesn't matter. Zeke thought it was Riddick, so he just shot him in the head.
Well, Johns did tell him, like, one shot. If you see him, just one shot.
Yeah.
And what happens if you don't get him? Or what if he sees me? There won't even be a shot. Like,
yeah.
Yep.
Then we do get that really quick reveal of Riddick drinking Paris's booze, like, in the background.
Just sitting up there in the open. Yeah. No one spots him or happens to look in that direction.
Ankles crossed, even though everybody except for Zeke is looking in that direction. Also, I'm not sure if he's in an actual chair or not, but this made me think about something along the lines of, do you meet your captain when you're boarding this ship to go into cryostasis to be transported to another planet? Maybe not the case in this movie specifically, but how many movies have we seen people heading to another planet to build a civilization, and not once is furniture ever mentioned?
You can build your own.
Well, they're either bringing a shit ton of furniture with them, or they're assuming that wherever they're going, we'll have enough materials to build furniture for a thriving population, or even buildings. It's such a weird question to address that I think nobody wants to even consider it, so let's just ignore that possibility whatsoever. I do find it funny, though.
Okay. No, I think it's one of the smaller concerns of interplanetary travel, but okay.
Yeah, you say that until you land. Then what do you do?
Well, presumably you didn't crash land and the ship you were in still has chairs and beds in it.
Yeah, but you're not going to live in the fucking ship, are you?
Well, maybe you could take them out of the ship. Boom, you have a chair. Get over it, man.
You have a chair. Civilization successful.
There you go.
So Zeke goes back to digging his hole and finds a tunnel and is promptly killed by something inside. Shocker.
I was just getting to know you, Zeke.
I'm glad we didn't get to know Zeke. We get the fight between Riddick and Johns, and Shazza shows up and knocks Riddick out with great ease. Well, not knocks him out, but knocks him to the ground anyway. And we finally get that pseudo reveal as to why he's wearing goggles. It's an interesting character trait. Do you want to give the explanation and talk about it, or do you want me to?
It's kind of a loose explanation.
It's ridiculous, though, right?
Like a surgeon in jail gave it to him.
Yeah.
He goes into details saying, like, I forget who. Somebody asks him how you get a pair of those.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you got to kill a whole bunch of people. Well, I could do that. And then in jail, you got to barter this and barter that and find a doctor who's willing to do this. It's like, it seems to me that you could find a doctor who could do that just outside of jail and pay them money.
But the thing there is that he was sent to a prison where he was told he'll never see the sun again. So, yeah, he paid that doctor with cigarettes. And I'm like, this is just stupid.
I do like the idea, and it's just the idea that he did it because in prison he didn't want to be snuck up on.
That does make sense.
Maybe not as far as getting this surgery done, but the idea that you're never going to see the light of day again. You're never getting out of this prison. Well, I don't want to get shanked.
Yeah,
in the night. So
I mean, give that as the reason in the script, and I'm fully on board.
It's a great gameplay mechanic in the video games, though, because you can turn on the vision for when you're stealthing in the dark.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Question for you.
Okay.
Everyone believes that Riddick killed Zeke with absolutely no proof. Why do they think this?
Because he's a murderer.
And he must have just, man. He's been hiding underground?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably cooler.
You realize this whole movie is about acceptance, right? Like they see an ex-con and they just...
Yeah, that's exactly what this is about. You're right. How foolish of me. So Fry, she just decides to climb into the tunnel?
Seems like a bad idea.
With everything going on, no sense of the terrain itself, I would just assume that he's gone for good and call it at that.
Yep.
Because what does she find? His corpse?
Almost her own death.
Yeah, a bunch of monsters. Shocked.
Raptors.
Monsters.
Raptors. They're raptors.
Creatures. She's rescued by the others, and I'm thanking this movie when she acknowledges that going in there was a stupid move.
Yeah.
Which is a rarity, but at least they acknowledge that. Thank you.
How many movies do you see somebody actually say, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking there.
Yeah, that was a stupid move. My bad.
Good. Learn from it. I'm okay with that. You're in a terrible mental state. You just crashed, almost killed the entire crew, and had to murder the captain. You're going to make some missteps. That's cool. Just smarten up out of them.
Next up, scene between Johns and Riddick. It's a confusing one for me, man. Because Johns offers to cut him free as long as he helps out. And he'll actually report that Riddick died in the crash. Completely out of character for what we know about Johns, right?
Right from the start, I'm like, this guy's not telling the truth.
Yeah.
And Riddick shouldn't be stupid enough to believe it.
I would take that, though, because his response is sure, then immediately pulls a gun on him.
Yeah.
So now, why? Just macho bullshit? Because think about it. You say you don't trust Johns. The slight chance that Johns is actually telling the truth and he knows that Riddick has a means to help them, whether it be muscle or just, defense from potential enemies or threats. Riddick turning on him immediately means that if I'm Johns, the next chance I get, I'm definitely going to kill Riddick.
I don't think you can, though. It's the idea. I think Riddick is just constantly establishing his dominance.
Really? Because Shazza took him out pretty easily.
That was a lucky shot.
Okay. Well, Johns has a shotgun, so don't really need to be too lucky with that. Everybody gathers what they can from the crash site and they head toward the new camp. What are your thoughts on Jack? Because as the movie progresses, Jack starts looking more and more like Riddick. Shaved head, starts wearing goggles. Why do you think Jack idolizes Riddick?
Yes.
Why? Jack knows nothing about Riddick.
Jack doesn't seem to know much about anything.
That's true. It just seems strange. And if it's a way for them to bond, okay, I can get that. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. So why are we getting this? Is this film padding? It doesn't really add anything to either character. I don't know. It just seemed like a weird thing to include and focus on numerous times. But moving on, this is just a me issue. They do get to a water pump of sorts, I guess. That's working at the settlement. So what do you think? That's just the mandatory false sense of hope we need early on in the film?
I think it's just getting rid of other obstacles because they want to get you to the point where really the Raptors are the only issue.
Okay, fair enough.
They don't want you thinking, oh, somebody's going to die of thirst, because that's not a concern for them, and that's not a reason to even like worry about them.
Yeah. So this leads me to another question then. Say you've just crash landed on a desert planet. There's very few survivors in your party.
Okay.
Can't see anything for miles and miles around you. And then you track down an empty settlement. There's a functioning spaceship, or what should be a functioning spaceship. There's running water. What is the first question you ask?
Where is everyone?
Exactly. And finally, Fry asks that question. You think, well, you just said it. I asked you, what was your first thought? Nobody else seems to question this except for Fry.
Well, they're all just so happy to see water at the moment that they haven't taken the time to stop and think about it. It's maybe the entire purpose of them dehydrating.
Yeah. Oh, well, Riddick, he knows what's up, calls it immediately. They're dead.
You don't set up an escape pod unless there's an emergency to escape from.
Yeah. I love shit like this.
There is a set up escape pod that hasn't been used, but it's been set up.
Yep.
What is going on?
Only good things, my friend.
Yeah.
I do like discovering the empty settlement, though. It reminds me of the mystery of Roanoke Island, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. But no. You look into it. It's very interesting. So one of the kid pilgrims, Ali, gets obliterated while exploring the settlement.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's handled pretty well.
This is what you get. In all of what's going on, the other thing that I'm not doing is going and exploring by myself.
Yeah. It's pretty cool though, man. Like how the skylights open and in the rafters it reveals some of the monsters are inside still, kind of like bats. Yeah,
they were hiding from the light, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't get to any sort of underground cavern or anything like that. So they got to the nearest darkness.
Yeah. Actually, I think bats was a good term because so far does every creature we see seem much smaller than what we get later in the movie? They seem really tiny because it looks like 20 or 30 of these things surround Ali, but the monsters we get later, one of them is the size of a grown human being, if not larger.
These are the kid ones. Just like these idiot kids went off exploring, and that's why they got stuck here at night.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. Maybe, or it could even be like an offshoot of that species. We don't know. Cool reveal of the tunnel and the floor of the building. That's home to the remains of the previous team, or so we assume. But John surmises that the creatures are afraid of daylight, so stay out of the shadows.
Yeah.
Smart, I guess, yeah.
I don't know exactly how he came to that conclusion, but it works.
And Fry discovers that the most recent core samples at the site were taken from 22 years ago.
Sure.
Plot point, I guess. That was the last solar eclipse, so the monsters were free to scour the planet. Whatever. It just feels like we're being shoved information that they have no real reason to believe is true. But this leads me to another question in the following scene. Riddick covers his scalp in grease and shaves his head.
Yes.
Why?
He just wants to groom himself. He's got to look good.
What is the possible reason, though? Like, other than to lead into the conversation that Johns is actually a morphine addict and a bounty hunter, not an actual officer?
I don't think there is a reason. He's just cool. I've been in captivity. I couldn't shave my head.
I guess it just seems ridiculous to me. Did you notice that quick dig at Owen's death earlier? Because Johns was hoarding the drugs and Owens died in severe pain.
No, I didn't catch that, but
yeah, he hoarded everything. He had like so many vials of morphine, and Owens, had. That's why I said it was tragic, because Johns could have doped him up something fierce, and he would have been in heaven. Instead, painful death. These are my drugs.
Yeah, it would have been a waste of the drugs. You just shot him after that anyway, right? So,
well, from there we cut to Junkie Johns in a scene I did not want to watch. or that's him shooting up.
I don't think it's necessary. We already got the impression of what this character is. Like Riddick just told us.
Yeah, I don't need to see needle in eye. I really hate that shit.
Well, I mean, these are futuristic drugs. You got to find out that they're taken differently.
Yeah, I guess. Confrontation between Fry and Johns here is really good, though.
Yeah.
Especially talking about how Riddick almost killed him, and he can still feel a bit of the blade touching his spinal cord. It actually gives us some really good backstory as to why Johns and Riddick hate each other so much. And the movie could have used a lot more of this. It's pretty intense. The lines are very well delivered, except for one thing. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but Radha Mitchell's accent is breaking through here so hard that it completely distracted me from the rest of the scene.
Oh, no, I didn't get that.
Oh, yeah, there's just like, she goes full Australian, which makes sense. She is. But it's weird that this is the take that they would use for the movie.
There's no reason you couldn't have just made it an Australian character.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm an Australian pilot. Okay.
Perfect. I mean, honestly, for the most part, her accent's fantastic. Like covering up the Australian accent. She does an amazing job. I don't know how. But the eclipse begins.
Had to see that coming. It's a very 30 Days of Nightish.
Yeah. A really cool shot of the planet rising above the horizon, though. Like, it was almost apocalyptic in its stature. It looked fantastic. That's probably my favorite shot of the entire film. And everyone has the appropriate reaction of just going apeshit and rushing back to the crash site to get power cores and everything they need to get off the planet. And this is an example, Sandra, where I said a rewatch adds something to the movie, because as they drive back through the what I call elephant graveyard, they break some of the skeletons, causing it to cave in, which is something they have to traverse later in the film. So up until this point, how are you feeling about this movie?
I'm enjoying it.
Right? Even the digs I've been taking at this are minor. If they had been addressed, I'd probably be enjoying it a lot more. But so far, pretty fucking good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So while at the site, the eclipse is now in full swing. And I honestly don't remember so much suspense last time I saw this movie. Hearing and seeing the thousands of monsters spew out of the depths. Raptors spew out of the depths and into the air is awesome. And the visual itself immediately conveys the threat. But the added sound, the weird dolphin whale sounds that they make really adds to it.
Am I the only one who's sitting here wondering how they survive so long without food?
I think it's because we see later on that they self-cannibalize.
Are they self-cannibalizing?
I assume that was the case.
I thought they were... We'll get to when we get to that scene, but I thought they were just trying to make it bleed to put out the torches.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems incredibly intelligent. And they don't really seem to be as such for the rest of the film.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's got to be a better idea to put out some torches than killing each other, but sure.
That's why I thought self-cannibalism. Because, that's what we saw in Reign of Fire as well. There was no other food, so they were starting to eat each other, the dragons.
That's possible, I guess.
Yeah. Main problem I have with this so far, and it's my main problem, which is minor to the rest of the film. We haven't really seen any of these things up close at all, right? We really have no idea of what they look like. We just kind of see the outlines in the abandoned camp and stuff like that. And now we're in an eclipse, so they don't really need to show us what these monsters look like. These raptors look like.
I think that's the better choice.
Yeah.
Don't show us. If we've talked about this before with movies that had maybe not the best practical work or not the best looking type of creature design.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it obscured as long as you can. Let the mind run away with it rather than actually showing something that looks not so good.
I would agree with you, except for when we do get the reveal, when we get some detail to what these creatures look like. I really enjoy it. I mean, the CG is shoddy and pretty janky at best, but I like what they're going for, and it works for this movie.
But you can still build that anticipation of something positive. If, in fact, you will have a positive reaction. There might be some that don't agree with you.
Well, that's on them, though. I mean, if we don't see the design for a long time, but the monsters are still there, it just kind of seems cheap. Because if you're just going to turn around and show us in excess towards the end of the film without using that as any sort of build intention, do it earlier and let us see it. Otherwise, it just seems like...
It is. It's suspenseful. You don't know what it is. It could be anything.
But I don't care. If you just show us outlines of a threat that's a swarm of something, I don't care. It's just a swarm of something. All right. It feels like the threat is lessened because you really have no idea. It's just reaction to CG. Give us an actual creature design, and then I have something I can sink my teeth into, something I can also be afraid of with these characters. But again, me problem. Anyway, the world's plunged into total darkness at this point. So everyone hides in a section of the crashed ship, and they try to seal themselves inside.
It's a good idea. Try to wait out the darkness if you can.
Yeah, and that's just it. We don't know how long it's going to be dark.
No idea.
No. Out of nowhere, our mom suggests that the monsters use echolocation. I don't know how he figured that out.
It's probably thinking about bats.
Right? It does make sense, though. Except for if that is the case, I mean, maybe this just means Riddick is stupid. But Riddick discovers that some of the monsters are already inside the ship. And when he sees them, he just slowly retreats into the shadows to hide. You're like, well, if they can't see and you're not hiding behind anything, it doesn't matter if you're in a shadow or not. And on that, we have to address the lighting. In a film that deals heavily with the use of light, like Three Suns is a plot point. The ambient lighting in this movie makes no sense. And I guess we just have to deal with the suspension of disbelief here. But when things are, quote, pitch black, you can see just fine.
Well, that's the intention of using that other lighting at the beginning. To let you still see something on camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Give you the feeling of how dark it actually is.
Yeah. Young Pilgrim Hassan is killed, and we finally get a good look at the creatures. I mean, it happened pretty quickly after the outline, so I really shouldn't have complained too much. Okay, so now that we have a full view of these monsters, these raptors, these creatures, what do you think?
Not the biggest fan of their designs. I
Really?
don't like the kind of like bladed heads type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kind of look like longbows held sideways.
Yeah, like this is our alien hammerhead shark or something. I don't know. It just it didn't do it for me. I wouldn't say I had a problem with it, but it just wasn't for me.
I remember hating the design when I first saw this movie. Yeah, they've got that weird bladed head. They're bipedal, winged, long-tailed monsters. And I actually really, really dug them this time around. I really enjoyed it. So that was a very nice surprise. We're also told that any type of light apparently actually physically injures them, burns away at their flesh. And I believe this is around where Shazza also dies. I can't really remember.
No, I'm not 100%.
I just remember that Shazza was there and then Shazza wasn't.
No.
So they form a plan to get back to the settlement using a cutting torch, 2 flashlights, flares, alcohol bottles with lit wicks, which we addressed earlier. I think is very stupid and very dangerous. And light tubes, which I fully don't understand. I guess they're powered by some sort of core at the center of their trailer that they're dragging along with them. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, just these weird fluorescent blue light tubes that everyone's wrapped around their torsos. And of course, Riddick is out front leading the team because of his ability to see in the dark. Again, Riddick is just a plot device.
Yeah. A really cool one, though.
Honestly, I'm warming up to it. He's pretty cool at this point, yeah. Because if he didn't have that vision thing, that he's just a fucking asshole character, and we don't need him.
He's still an asshole character.
Yeah,
he's
that's
an
true.
Asshole character with that vision.
Another asshole character, though, dies in this scene, and that's Paris. How do you feel about Paris's death?
I feel like in a situation like that, you should know better than to go after the one.
Well, go after the what, sorry?
Well, wasn't it like he dropped a flare or bottle or something.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the thing. He knocked over the flare, which rolled into the darkness. Jack was the one who went after it and almost gets killed. Paris is just panicking and crawls his way into the night, away from the group. And that pulls over whatever was powering all of their light tubes, and it breaks it, killing the light source for the entire team.
And you thought none of them got drunk.
Well, I guess, yeah, he's been drinking the entire time. I'm glad he died. He was a terrible character. But with his death, we do get the scene that made the movie trailer exciting. He takes one last swig from that bottle and holds up his Zippo and sprays the alcohol out of his mouth, creating a giant flame. And we see that he's completely surrounded by all of the raptors. Great shot, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Why didn't it cause any harm to them? None of them even cower or flinch.
Oh, they do. They go back a little bit, but not compared to what happened when someone shone a flashlight on one.
Yep.
Because the skin just burned away immediately. Next up, reveal that Jack is actually a girl and on her period, which is drawing the attention of the creatures. And Johns comes up with one of the darkest plans I have ever heard. It's fucking crazy, man. You want to cover it? Do you want me to? Kill her and drag her 50 feet behind the group as a distraction for the raptors. Fucking John.
Yeah.
But he and Riddick fight, and Riddick just leaves him for the distraction instead. And it's honestly not much of a distraction, man, because they off him immediately.
Yeah, it didn't buy them a lot of time at all.
No. What do you think about John's death? I think that was some really bad CG.
I was just happy he got what was coming to him.
See, I was too, and kind of conflicted on that because Cole Hauser, I love Cole Hauser. I think he's an amazing actor, and he's great at playing assholes. But I think the character's death was necessary for this far into the film.
At this point, you have to know that, like, very few, if any of them, are making it out of there alive.
I'm very happy with how quickly these survivors are dropping, because it happens so rapidly that you don't know who's next. Most of them are expendable. We get a really, really dark conversation between Imam and Riddick over their belief in God, which I do not remember the first time I saw this. And I don't know if we need it or not. But do you remember what Riddick said?
He's talking about, like, his childhood, essentially, and saying that it kind of like the opposite of what you expect, where somebody would say, you know, how can you believe in God if you've had all of this misfortune? And he just turns it around to, how can you not believe in God if they did this to me? And I don't not believe in him. I just hate him.
Yeah. Starting out life in a liquor store trash bin with an umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. I don't think we need that backstory for Riddick, because it makes us sympathize with a character who doesn't really deserve it, in my opinion.
It's maybe just a glimmer of hope that perhaps this guy will have, like, a redeeming, heroic moment, because he's going to reveal his vulnerabilities and then overcome them. And no, he doesn't do that.
Exactly, right? So what are we doing here?
It's a good misdirect, though.
It is a good misdirect.
Because if you watch enough action movies, it is very effective in making you think, oh, this guy's going to have a change of heart.
Yeah. The group continues on. And I want to know if you caught this like I did. Riddick is scouting. And by scouting, I mean standing there looking straight forward.
Wide open.
Yeah. It's not wide open, though.
I mean, he's not really hiding. No.
Yeah. Oh, he's out in the open for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But he says, I only see one way. That way. Yeah. They're in a fucking canyon. All they could do is go straight ahead or backward towards the monsters. So yes, that way. Ditch this line entirely.
Even if there was, say, like a cave or something, if he's like, oh, I see a cave this far up, we can maybe try ducking into it. It's like, a cave is the last place I want to go with these creatures.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go somewhere where there's no chance of light ever. So this is where they're swarming overhead, and what I said, we're self-cannibalizing. The blue blood does look really cool. But Jack is attacked and Riddick saves her. There's no fucking way that he could possibly be stronger than that creature.
Yeah, he's Riddick.
Did you have a problem with that?
No.
Really?
It's ultimate badass.
Because they pick people up with their claws and fly off with them.
Yeah.
Riddick grabs this one's feet and the thing is stuck in place.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
What are you talking about? It makes perfect sense. He's Riddick.
I hate that. I hate that you're trying to use that as an explanation, because that is the explanation and it doesn't make any sense to me.
I will say this, though. Having him save Jack right after that moment that he had talking about his origin further plays into the thing that you're thinking he's going to become a hero.
Mm-hmm.
It's great writing, if you ask me.
In retrospect, yes, it is. At the time, it's very frustrating. So the last Pilgrim kid is killed.
Yeah, those kids
down.
Were defensible.
Oh my god, yeah, they were just fodder for sure.
They were so much fodder. It's just like
no character development.
Names? Nope.
Oh yeah, there were names.
No. I'm saying, did you bother learning their names?
Oh no, no. Only a mom.
It's like, what are their names? What are their names? Victim 1, Victim 2.
Yeah, first, second, third.
Yeah.
So yeah, down to 4 people. And you're right though. Like, a cave is the last place I would want to hide, but that's where Riddick stores them as he drags the power cells back to the settlement.
Well, they were just slowing him down, man.
Yeah, I hate the discovery of bioluminescent worms. It sounds like you hate it as much as I do.
You'd think you'd see them before.
Yeah,
because they glow.
They glow.
Where were you up until now, worms?
Exactly.
You would have thought you'd look over the landscape. We're looking at the horizon. You'd see some dots of light. No.
It's just like they show up out of nowhere.
Considering the other creatures on this planet, you'd think these worms would be like overtaking the population.
You would think so.
They can't be stopped.
Worm planet.
Take that, Raptors. Bunch of worms. Just chilling here. Taunting you.
I never thought about that. That's amazing. Little glowworms. Okay, that honestly, that's very similar to the Time Machine. You get the Morlocks living underground and the... Oh, God, what were they called living?
I don't know. I never heard of this.
Oh, shut up. It's your favorite book of all time.
I don't read.
The Eloy?
Yeah, the pronunciation might be debatable a little bit.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, similar to that. So Fry leaves Mom and Jack in the cave with promise to go back with more light. The look on Fry's face when she gets to the settlement and sees Riddick's in the ship ready to take off is probably the most self-defeat I've ever seen in a character's face.
She does a great job.
Yeah, she's really good. What do you think about the back and forth that Fry and Riddick have?
I like it. It's like both of them are kind of trying to gauge the other one, but not giving up an inch.
She's giving up slowly. She's fighting really hard, and he's just telling her to leave with them. Yeah, go with me. Leave them behind. He's repeatedly trying to break her will. He's talking down to her. He's calling her a good girl when she starts crawling into the ship. And then she thinks about the fact that she almost killed everybody by choice when the ship was crashing at the beginning of the film. And this starts a physical fight, ending when Fry says that she would die for Jack and her mom, convincing Riddick to join her in the rescue. So my first question is, what the fuck? I don't know why that convinces Riddick to go back with Fry instead of letting Fry go back and then just flying away.
That's what he was going to do anyway.
Exactly.
I'll
Nothing has changed. Now, what about that makes him reconsider anything?
I guess there's an argument to be made that part of what he was doing was testing her resolve.
What if she didn't show up in time and he just flew off? So you're thinking her testing him testing her resolve was the plan the entire time, and he was just waiting, hoping that she would show up.
Oh, you don't know. Maybe he was going to fly that to the cave.
I highly doubt it, but you're potentially right.
No, I'm not. There's no way.
No, he was gone. He was just fucking gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, he joins Fry and they go back to the cave to rescue Jack and her mom. And he plays it up to Jack like he was going to help them the whole time.
He was going to bring the ship to where they were. Probably a better plan because it would have had more light. Yeah.
How do you feel with this character now?
He's the best.
He's a complete asshole.
Oh, so good.
Complete asshole.
Yeah.
Riddick's attacked and badly wounded, and Fry's killed, helping him get to the ship. In a crazy death scene, if you ask me. She just gets impaled and then pulled up into the sky.
Well, she did say that she wasn't going to die for him. So, of course, she was going to die for him. Well, and that's maybe just not for him, but because of him.
And the whole thing is ruined by him repeatedly saying, "Not for me."
Yeah.
And that is shitty, sad delivery of, pain and sorrow. That was the worst acting in the movie, was that one line. And it was so bad that it will stick with me.
Nah, it's fantastic.
So Riddick, Jack, and Imam get on the ship, use the engine to kill a large number of the monsters, and then fly off into space. Jack ponders. What?
It's so stupid when he's just turns the engine off to let the creatures build up a little.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got 10 of the million of them.
Can you imagine? That
was not worth the risk.
That's his big fuck you to the monsters, is let them surround the ship and he just burns them with the engines. Can you imagine if they actually got inside the engine and it just broke when they turned on and they were just stuck there and just ripped apart?
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
That was probably my least favorite part of this movie.
Yeah.
Really
you stupid.
You showed them.
Yeah. Jack ponders what they should say if anybody questions them about Riddick's whereabouts, and he tells her to say that he's dead. And that's how the movie ends. A good ending? Bad ending? Thoughts?
I think it's more cliffhanger ending.
Is it?
Yeah.
I disagree. I just like the implication that once they get somewhere populated, he's going to fuck off and ditch them.
I'm surprised he hasn't ditched them already.
Yeah. Well, he tried to, and then Fry showed up, and then he changed his mind.
Oh, he's going to train Jack to be the next Riddick.
Chronicles of Jack. That's the movie. That's where this movie ends.
He did survive with the two people he seemed to have the biggest connection with in the movie. And it didn't feel ham-fisted. It just kind of happened that way.
The biggest connection? He had one conversation with him. One.
Yeah, but he respected him.
Okay.
We'll go with that. Goliath, man.
Yeah, that's what he was known as. He was Goliath. Yeah. Did this movie look expensive to you?
I'd say it was middle of the road.
What's the road?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. Is this your way of asking me what I think the budget was?
Yeah.
30 million.
23.
Okay.
This movie has 2 live-action sequels, some short animated film, an animated sequel. It has video games. It has books. Was it a success? How much do you think it made?
30 million.
53.2.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't make a lot of money, but for taking a risk on a lesser-known cast, putting $23 million into it, yeah, it was good.
Well, I think more than the money that it brought in, they saw the potential of future monies to be made.
Agreed. How do you think this movie stands with fans? What do you think it has IMDb out of 10?
8.
7. Close.
Okay.
Favorable reviews for Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think the critics are at?
8.
8%?
No, 80.
Oh, 59.
What? Stupid critics.
And the audience?
8.
77.
That's right.
Close. Yeah. Debatable for me, but awards. Let's get into this.
Let's do it. What did you have for your least favorite or worst character?
Zeke. Just straight up. I hate Zeke. He's not even really in the movie that much, but every time he's on screen, he's just a complete asshole.
Oh,
He doesn't need to be there.
Well, you need to have some of those disposable characters. And you weren't going to have one of the more prominent cast members be the one just randomly like murder a guy.
But look at what Zeke does. He just gives attitude the entire time, kills an innocent man, digs a hole into the ground, and gets murdered by monsters.
Exactly. You're not going to give that to one of the main characters. That has to be given to a disposable character.
Yeah. And it just so happens that he's my least favorite. I hate Zeke.
Oh, man.
What about you?
I went with Paris.
Yeah.
He's just okay. There's nothing against the actor. All he does is drink and make stupid decisions. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's his character straight up.
Yeah. Don't need it.
I'm very curious about your favorite.
I went with Riddick.
Really? Why?
I think it's part of the kind of overall appeal of the character and the other properties that he was in that just make me love Riddick. He is fantastic. I love how cold he is as a hero. If you want to call him a hero, anti-hero. Like this guy, and for better, not even for worse, but for better, is just a one-note, cold-hearted murderer.
Yeah. Interesting choice. I think a lot of people would agree with you.
You?
I picked Fry.
Fry?
Yeah.
She almost killed everyone in the movie, man.
She's the only one with an actual character arc.
I guess that's
going
true.
From one of the most selfish to the most selfless character, start to finish.
What about Riddick's character arc?
He didn't have an arc. He started and ended the film as an asshole.
Yeah, but like he showed signs of not being an asshole all the time.
Yeah, he made us consider if he was going to change, and then he never did.
Right?
That's not an arc.
Took me
Fry,
for a ride.
However, Radha Mitchell, Cole Hauser, and Keith David were the only actors in this movie to me. Not Vin Diesel.
Well, no, but that's why this role was fantastic for him. Just,
I guess.
Here's a character
no skill.
Where you just need to look cool and say things in a calm, deep voice.
I never thought he looked cool, though. He always looked like an idiot in this movie.
You know what you're talking about.
But no, Radha Mitchell's Carolyn Fry character, by far my favorite. There was nobody that came even close to that.
Whatever.
My memorable line, though, I think is one that everybody else will forget. It's just such a ridiculous thing to say.
Okay.
It's immediately after the crash. And this comes from Jack talking to Fry. It just says, "Thanks for saving our dicks." Like, what? First of all, what a weird thing to say. Second of all, Jack is going into full "I'm not a girl, I'm a guy" mode because she doesn't want to feel like she's being a problem for the rest of the survivors.
I don't even remember that line in the movie.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Most people don't remember it, but it only stands out to me now from a rewatch perspective. I'm like, it's just such a weird fucking thing to say.
Yeah,
but it also makes sense for that character to say that line. So yeah, that's it for me. What about you?
So mine has a little bit of a build-up. So if you'll bear with me.
I have to. I don't have a choice.
At one point, John says, "How's it look?" And Rick's like, "Looks clear."
I totally called this for your line.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so then they see a creature fly out like towards them and then like disappear into the night. And John's is like, "You said it was clear." And Riddick says, "I said it looked clear." And then Johns is like, "Well, how does it look now?" And then my favorite line is that Riddick just goes back to, "Looks clear."
Yeah.
Why are you even asking him after the first time? Because you know he's just going to say that. Oh, it was fantastic. It was so good. I
totally knew it. Watching the movie, I'm like, that is the most Sandro line I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah. It was so good.
What about memorable or favorite scene?
So when I was remembering the movie from when I watched it when I was younger, the one scene that I always remember that stood out was when Riddick reveals that Jack is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way that, like, he says she's bleeding, and Johns assumes that he's talking about Fry and says she's not even cut. And he says, "Not her," right?
Yeah.
For some reason, that was the only part that I ever remembered really well from the movie. Not that I didn't remember other parts. However, it's not the part I'm going to pick, even though, like, here we are 23 years later, and that's the only part I really, really, really remembered from the movie. But I gotta go with just the image of Paris blowing the alcohol before he dies. From just a graphic image standpoint, you know what's going to happen. You know, like, there's no question, even remotely, what is going to be seen there. But it's such a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked the exact same thing. And I think that was intentional, because that was the one shot they used heavily to market this movie. It's in every trailer. It's the big capping scene to make you want to go see the movie in theaters. And that's because it looks amazing, and you're not prepared for it, because it's just a man with a lighter in front of his face, and then this massive flame emits when he spews alcohol through it, and you see that he's going to be ripped apart because he's surrounded by monsters.
Raptors.
It's absolutely memorable, most memorable. And fuck you and Raptors. They're not Raptors.
I didn't write that down.
Well, I don't think anybody associated with the film wrote it down either. You just read it in what? IMDb trivia, which you can alter yourself if you want to.
And goofs. Yeah.
That's not canon. That's
you don't know
that's
that.
just some jackass making up a name for them.
If I cared enough, I would do the research.
I know you don't care. That's fine.
Yours?
I already said the exact same thing as you.
I didn't know if you were expanding on mine or if you actually agreed that it was your choice as well.
No, that's why I said same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On the Riddick wiki, they are listed as bioraptors.
Okay. Interesting.
So that's got to be a lot more official.
I guess it has to be, yeah. Oh, just in case you didn't catch on, I don't give a fuck.
Oh, man. It's just harsh. All right, so what are your final thoughts now that you've revisited Pitch Black on the movie?
It's fine. It starts off really strong. The acting, for the most part, is great, except for Vin Diesel, who is still at this point just learning in the year 2023. It's a really cool premise. I love the creature design. The setting, not the biggest fan, but they were working with what they had. It makes sense from a creative aspect to film somewhere where you don't have to rely on continuity, like changing climates and whatnot. So a desert, perfect. Some fun characters, some detestable characters. It works for chemistry, sure. It's just that the movie falls apart at the end for me, and I was waiting for it to just be over. And the fact that it ended on such a weak note really, really hindered my enjoyment of the movie as a whole. So to me, it's okay. I recommend for people who haven't seen it. I wouldn't recommend somebody like us who had watched it when it first came out to really check it out again. It's passable. And that's fine. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. And I think that the movie definitely displays knowledge of its shortcomings and incorporates them fantastically. Like you say, Vin Diesel's lack of acting. Well, they gave him the perfect role for that in this movie. You're talking about limited locations, budgets, things like that, but they wrote it all into the movie in a way that it all feels natural. Like, it's not, we're stuck in this situation where we got to do it this way. No, they kind of used everything that they had, all of their resources to the best advantage that they could. And as an action movie, which, in all honesty, we joke around, we pick apart things like that, but a lot of these things aren't needed for this type of movie. The main thing you need is the motivation to have the action scenes, which I think are very well done. I'm not even the biggest fan of the design of the Raptors, but the idea and the threat that they pose works perfectly in this movie for me. This is a fantastic action movie. You shouldn't need more than that. Like, you shouldn't picking apart origins of characters and things like that. It's not necessary. You're in the wrong field for this. I think they do a good job of it, even just kind of what they kind of loosely parse out for origins and things like that to just give the characters a little bit of flavor. But overall, I'd say it's definitely a worthy action movie to revisit. All right. So that was our thoughts on Pitch Black. If you guys want to share your thoughts, hit us up on social media. We are on Twitter at BSBargainBin, Facebook.com/BSBargainBin, or of course, comment section on YouTube is a perfect place to reach out to us and let us know what you thought. Ben.
Yo.
Feels like we've had a limited amount of them lately, but next week is one of your picks, sir.
Yeah, it is. And I couldn't choose between two films, so I'm going to do what you did to me. I'm going to give you the year that they were released.
How
and you have
dare
to pick.
you?
So we're either going 1998 or 2006.
Oh, man. 2010.
So 1998 or 2006.
I love saying 19 something, so let's go 1998.
Okay, well, this is going to be a sequel.
No sequel.
To a movie we covered 40 some odd episodes ago. And we'll be talking. You're going to be so mad at me.
I feel like I'm going to be mad already.
Well, I wanted to go with a movie that fit the time of year. So we'll be talking 1998's I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mark in the morning for Magic 96.7 Radio. Oh my God. Just one magic great quick getaway.
After what happened last summer,
We are going to the Bahamas.
nobody deserves a vacation more than Julie James.
We have arrived in paradise.
And here, miles from civilization,
So a great weekend.
she's finally gotten away from it all.
I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you wear the key. If I'd have known for just 1 second, you'd be back to bother me. Don't know the lyrics. Hold on. He did something to the screen. I said, "What are you talking about?"
But she can never escape her past.
It's happening again.
Because there are some secrets
There was a body in there. I am not going crazy. He's here.
Who is here?
and there are some fears
Hey, Julie, you see any dead bodies out there?
2 summers ago, we hit Ben Willis with our car, and then we threw his body in the water.
Can you not tell me the whole story? I'm your best friend.
that will haunt her forever.
I want off this island.
That's not possible.
This time,
We're all gonna die! It's gonna kill us one by one!
there's no getting away.
If you want me bad, come and get me! I'm right here! He's out there.
I still know what you did last summer. Get hooked again.
Until next week, have a good one.
All the best.